Welcome to another video in my series of videos all about embroidery needles, and this time we are looking at how to choose the right size needle for your embroidery projects. Hello everyone, my name is Sarah and welcome to my channel all about hand embroidery. So we have a playlist on needles, including one about which needle to use for which purpose, and in this video we're going to look specifically how to pick the right size needle. So I am already making the assumption that you've already picked the right type of needle. So if you don't know how to do that, then do check that video out by clicking on the playlist that comes up on the screen at the end of this video. So if you're watching this video, you want to know how to choose the right size of needle. So I'm going to help you with that. So I've got some to show you here, and I'm going to use these embroidery crewel needles as an example. Now, if you're not sure what embroidery or crewel needles are, then do check out our video, different types of needle. That's in that playlist at the end of the video. And you can see here that they come in different sizes. So I've got a small one here. This is a 12, and a large one. This is a 5. So the larger the number with needle sizes, the smaller the needle. That works with all types of needles. This is as small as these ones go, so this is a 12, these ones are tiny. Then we've got a size 10, a 9, a 7 and a 5, and they do go all the way up to 1. Those ones are massive. I don't actually have any of those ones, so I'm just going to demonstrate with these ones. You might also see your needles come in a pack like this, so you can see that they say embroidery crewel needles, so the same kind of needles I've just shown you, and they've got size 3 to 9 in the corner, so the 3s are the large ones and the 9s are the smaller ones, but they don't label them in the packet. But what they do is they put the largest one in the middle, so this will be a 3, the ones at the edge will be a 9, and there's probably 5s and 7s in between. So if you get your needles in this format in a pack like this, that's how to work out what size they are. You can also transfer them into your needle book as well, and the way to just keep the sizes in check is to separate them out. You could put the largest ones at the top and the smallest ones at the bottom and leave a little gap between so that you know that they change sizes. And you can also do the same thing with old and new ones if you want to. So if you want to put new ones at the top, they've just come out the packet, you could put them in there, and you could put the ones you've already used at the bottom, and then you know which ones you've used and which ones you haven't. I would recommend taking them out of the packet. They're not great in here. I actually had to use a pair of pliers to get one of these out of here, so it's not great for the needle, so do take them out of those and put them in a needle book of some description. Okay, so there's two main things that you need to know when you're choosing your needle size, and the first one is that the needle will make the hole in the fabric for the thread to pass through and not the thread itself. And the other one is that you need to choose the size needle to go with the thread you're using and not the fabric. So I'll go over both of those in a bit more detail now. So the tendency is when you're choosing a needle is to go for the biggest one because that's the easiest one to thread, but that can cause problems, which I'll demonstrate now. So if I've got a large needle and quite a fine thread in this instance, this is what happens. And it makes large holes in your fabric. I'm just going to take the whole thing through. And I'll do that several times. And the eye is the widest part of the needle, so this bit will go through, and then when the eye goes through with the thread in it, it's making an even bigger hole. And if I just stab some holes, you can see what that's doing to your fabric. So it is damaging the fabric. Now if the thread then fills that hole, that's fine, but if your thread is too fine for your needle is too large, then you will see these hole marks in your fabric, and every time you stitch you're going to get one of these holes, so that isn't great to see. Now equally, if you go the other way around, and if your needle is too small for your thread, so I've got a smaller needle and a thicker thread that I've managed to thread in here, and I know this isn't the right size, what will happen is the needle isn't big enough to make the hole for the thread to pass through. The needle will go through, but the hole's not big enough, so the thread will make the hole bigger, and then you'll hear that noise that it makes. And I'll try and demonstrate that now, and I'll try and capture the sound as well, as if it's so you can hear what I'm hearing. So we're just going to adjust a bit of equipment and try and get that for you. So I put my needle in, it makes the hole. I'm going to pull that all the way through, and I hope you could hear that kind of it makes. That's not a good noise. That's the thread wearing every time it goes through the hole. So every time you come in and out, you're actually wearing that thread. So I'll do that a few more times. So I'm using a wool for this one, which is particularly sort of fibrous. It has these little fibres that stick out of the wool, and that will wear a lot more than any other thread. But that's if your needle is too small. So if you start to hear those noises, that's bad. Stop and change your needle up a size. So that's just a quick demonstration what happens if your needle is too big. The thread will fall out of the needle easily, and it'll make those holes in your fabric. And if your needle is too small, you will have trouble threading your needle, and it will make that horrible noise and it will wear the thread. So you need to sort of feel your way through this a little bit. Don't worry too much about the numbers on the needle unless somebody says something very specific, you must have this needle size. It's really good to learn how to sort of feel your way into it and how to try that yourself and to understand if your needle size is right or not. So I'm going to demonstrate with a few different kinds of threads now. I'm going to use these embroidery crewel needles. I know these are the right needles for this kind of thread, and I've just got to work out which is which. Now, I probably know instinctively after years and years of doing this which one is the right one. So I'll try and show you some different ones and to show you how you know whether you need to change your needle size or not. So the first one that I want to show you is a cotton perlé. So this is a cotton thread. It's twisted. It's only one piece of it's not like a stranded. You don't take the strands apart, you just use it as it is. This is a number 16, so this is a very fine one. So I'm just going to pick a large needle. So I've got a crewel needle number 5 for this, and I'm going to thread that in there. Now that threads super easily, so let's just try it and see what it's like. I'm not going to stitch anything, I'm just going to go through the fabric and see how it feels. So it's making a nice big hole, the thread's passing through it no problem. I can't hear the noise it's making. But it does come and threaded quite easily. Just been back and forth a few times with that, and it's coming off that needle. So let's try the next needle size down. So that was a 5, so let's just go down one size to a 7 and try that. That threads quite nicely. You can hear it a little bit more, but it's nothing to be concerned about. That's going through really nicely. So I think a 7 is probably good. But let's just go down one more size just to prove a point. So I'm going to go to a number 9 now. So they're getting on the small side now, so I'm expecting to find it a little bit harder to thread. I've been threading needles for years, by the way, so I'm quite good at threading needles. If you are struggling with your needle threading, please don't, because there's a really good method to use that will change your stitching life. Do check that video out as well, because that one is in the playlist at the end. It's one of our most popular videos, is how to thread your needle. I can hear it a little bit more now. Let's just come up and down. Still feels okay, actually. So sometimes you just need to do a little bit of stitching with it just to try it and see how it feels. And if you find that it's starting to wear quickly and your thread's not lasting very long, then switch back up to that larger needle. A number 7 would probably be okay, but a number 9 is working fine as well. So you need to just try it for a little bit, do a little bit of a sample with it, see how it feels, see if it's wearing the thread, and then you can make a decision about which one of those two is the right size. So I've got another perlé thread here, same kind of thread. You can see the twist on this one a little bit more because this is a larger one. So this is a number 8 thread. So this is getting thicker. Now I know for the number 16 thread that the number 9 was okay. I'm not going to get this in a number 9, I'm pretty sure. Not really going to get in there. I probably could, but if I'm really struggling with that, then I know that's not the right size. So let's try the number 7. Right, that goes in there okay, but I'm thinking that might wear. We'll again just try it through the fabric. It will make a little popping noise when it goes through. That little pop is okay. That's the width of the needle eye and the 2 threads in the needle going through together. That's okay. It's this bit that you want to listen out for. That feels quite smooth. Now perlé thread is quite a smooth thread. And that's okay. So I think from that little test, I think I would do the number 16 in a number 9 needle and the number 8 in the number 7 needle. And again, just try a little sample and make sure that that's okay. So I've got a cotton embroider now. Now this comes in different sizes as well. So this is a size 16. That doesn't correlate with the perlé thread. This is thicker than that one. It's probably similar to the size 8, so I'm going to try it in the size number 7 needle. It hasn't got quite so much of a shiny twist as the perlé does, so it's a little bit more fibrous. That made quite a large pop, if you heard that. You don't really, that's sort of a bit of a struggle to get the needle through, which means it's just a bit tight in the eye. So I'm going to swap that up to a number 5. So now the needle will make a larger hole and the thread will pass through that. So hopefully that's better. You can feel that it's better. It's much more smooth. If you're sort of fighting your fabric a little bit and fighting your needle, got the wrong size. That's much better. So I would go for a number 5 with that one. This does take a little bit of experience, but I hope this is just helping you to understand how you can work this out for yourself, and you don't need a formula. You don't need somebody to say this size needle for this thread, that you can work it out yourself and go on how it feels for you. Now the last one I want to look at is stranded cotton or floss. This one always confuses people. We have a whole video on this thread alone, so do check that one out. Lots of information about it there, because this thread is made up of lots of other threads. So there's 6 strands in this one. Just separate them out there, and you can choose how many strands you want to use. You can use 1 strand, you can use 6 strands, you can use more than 6 strands, you can put another piece together with it if you want to, and obviously that will need different size needles. So I'm just going to use all 6 at once and see what that feels like. Now 6 strands of stranded cotton is quite a lot to go through an embroidery fabric. It's okay if you're using a canvas or something for a needlepoint design, but for embroidery on a woven fabric, this is just a cotton. By the way, a cotton fabric, that's quite a lot to go through. So I'm going to try it in the number 5, the biggest that I've got. I think this might be a bit tight. Even in that, it is a little bit tight. So what you might want to do, will just go in, but I know from how hard that is to thread, that's not going to like going through the fabric. So I'm not even going to try that. What I'm going to do is swap it up to a chenille needle. So a chenille has got a longer eye in it, there's more room to take the thread. So you might need to change your needle if it's not the right. So if I used 1 strand of this, my embroidery needles would be fine, and probably a number 9 or 10 would manage 1 strand. But because I've got 6, I can't physically get all of those strands in the eye. But because I've got a chenille needle, I've got twice as much eye, and that goes in quite easily. It's a bit of a pop, but it goes through nice and smoothly. So sometimes you might need to change up to a larger needle and a different type of needle to take more of the thread. Now if I just pull a few strands out of that, let's go halfway. Let's go 3 strands. There's 6 strands in a skein, so let's go 3. The needle's mixed up now, so let's try number 7. That threads quite nicely. Yeah, that feels pretty good. So maybe even a 5. It's catching slightly. You just hear that a little bit, so I think I would probably again go up to a 5. So you can see the processes that I'm using for each one. It's the same for whatever kind of thread you use. If you've got a silk thread, they might be super fine, so you're going right down to a number 10 or even a 12 embroidery thread. If you're stitching on a silk fabric, the weave of the fabric is much closer together, so you may not want a big needle for that. It's going to make a massive hole in a very finely woven fabric. So the fabrics will change a little bit, change how you use your needles a little bit, but really you want to match the needle to the thread and then have a think about the fabric as well. You're not likely to be using a thick wool on a very fine silk anyway, so you haven't got that confusion to work out. So just try a few of the threads that you use regularly, try some different needles, see how they feel, and you will soon learn what one is best for you and the thread that you want to use. I just want to mention quickly about chenille needles and silk ribbon. So I've got 2 sizes here, smaller ones. I think that's a 24 and an 18, so quite a difference there in size. And I've just got the 2mm ribbon in the smaller needle, and then you can imagine if you put your large ribbon in that, it's just going to scrunch the ribbon up and it's creased before you've even started. So you want your ribbon to lie nice and flat in the eye of your needle, so do make sure that you use a larger needle for a wider silk ribbon. So it can be quite a complex subject, needles and needle types and needle sizes and which one you should use. So I hope that's helped you a little bit to work out which one you should be using. Don't forget those 2 points. The first one is that the needle makes the hole and the thread should pass through that hole. The thread shouldn't make the hole. And the second one is match your needle to your thread and not to your fabric, and then you should be good to go. So if you're interested to learn more about needles, and there is more to learn, do check out our playlist. We've got all our needle videos in this one playlist here, so do have a look at that. If you've enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up. More people will get to see it. And thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll see you next time.